the 90s, grunge, the new millennium, 9/11, Richie Sambora leaves Bon Jovi. All that and more next on Heels and Quads.
Heels and Quads Media, the place for metalheads. With Tommy and Levi, we're taking full control. Screaming vocals, thunderous bass, and crushing beats. Heels and Quads Media, where the metal scene meets.
Welcome back, Heels and Quads Media here on YouTube. I'm Tommy, and I'm back with part 3 of Thank You, Goodnight, the Bon Jovi story review, as the thunder rolls behind me. So this episode talks about Bon Jovi moving past Guadalajara, their last show of the New Jersey tour in Mexico, then taking a break, Doc McGee not being their manager anymore, John doing the Young Guns soundtrack with Blaze of Glory and Miracle and all those songs, Richie doing Stranger in This Town, which was really cool that they included him on Arsenio Hall and covering that part of the band's career. Then we get Keep the Faith, the tour for that, Bon Jovi management starting up, then a couple years later, 95, These Days, the These Days tour, their show at Wembley in London, or their shows at Wembley in London. Then there's that 5-year gap where there's nothing, they kind of just glance over everything, and then you get the New Year's Rockin' Eve countdown with Dick Clark for the year 2000. And it was really cool how they did it, because all drops, and then he says, and now we're in the year 2000. And then as soon as he says it, go, whoa, whoa, and you get It's My Life video. Talk a little bit about Crush. Then 9/11 happens. John talks about how Richie was at his house the morning of 9/11, and he was about to wake him up to start writing. And then the towers get hit. Then we talk about bounce a bit, Have a Nice Day. You get the story about Who Says You Can't Go Home and how they were the first rock band to be on the country charts. Then it kind of gets a little jumbled up, where it goes from Lost Highway to the Circle to Because We Can, and it's just kind of a really brief just glance over that, because the main part here is where they start talking about Richie's issues. He talks about how he missed his daughter and Heather Locklear and wanted to be home with them more, and he didn't get to spend enough time, which as a dad totally understand, and as a husband totally get, working all the time and being gone, and you don't feel like you get that time and you miss out on everything. And I want to play devil's advocate here, because this is like the main takeaway you get from this part of the documentary, is addiction is a terrible thing. Most of us go through something we're addicted to at some point in our lives. And yes, it sucks. Yes, it cripples you. Yes, it affects other people around you, but you still have to show up. And I understand Richie's frustration with, as an artist especially, and as a creator, why he was upset when John Shanks played on The Fighter, and they talk about, John says, it's this, he plays the riff on the acoustic. He's like, that's it. That's what the straw that broke the camel's back, basically. And it's understandable, and also it's understandable on Richie's part, because he was upset because he didn't play on it. He knew people were going to know he didn't play on it, which I don't know about other Bon Jovi fans, but I noticed right away when that album came out that a lot of it wasn't Richie, if any. And it sucks, because The Circle was actually really good, and then Because We Can just kind of... Lost Highway was different, but it was kind of formulaic Bon Jovi at that point. But Because We Can kind of kicked off what we get now, and that includes the new single Legendary, which will be on part 4. But it's just that formulaic Bon Jovi, just, let's crank out the adult contemporary pop with that country flair blend that it's been the last few albums. And there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I've listened to them, I've bought them. It's not horrible, but it's like Richie says, it's stale. Like, the band is stale. And you can tell now that it's not Richie Sambora, because It's stale. And Phil X doesn't even get time to do anything. So it sucks. And it sucks that Richie's not in the band. And then this part of the doc ends with credits rolling, and then it comes back up and they're asking John if he's ever going to tour again, because this part also covers his surgery, in, like, you know how they kind of done the flashbacks into the today stuff. And he says if he's not, you know, basically 100%, he's not going to do it anymore. And here's what I think. If they're not going to tour again, if John makes the decision not to tour again, which he could, and that, I mean, it's been a great career, whatever, you could still record albums if you wanted. You don't have to tour, maybe do one-offs, maybe do a Vegas residency at the Sphere or something, I don't know. But if he doesn't want to tour, if he doesn't want to perform live anymore, I think what needs to happen, Richie and the band needs to get in a room. They need to hash out all the bad blood. And they say there's not, but there clearly is, because of the way that, you know, this documentary's going. He said back and forth. They need to get in a room, hash it out. They need to do a week-long stand at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey and give everybody a chance to kind of go see him one last time. Do it at home. You're on home field. You got home field advantage. Nobody's going to care what John's voice sounds like. You're not even going to be able to realize it. And having Richie there to help fill the gap, like Obie O'Brien says in the documentary, that had Richie been there in 2022, when everybody was on John's ass about how he sounded, if Richie would have been there, nobody would have even noticed, because he is what bridges that gap. His vocal, the way they harmonize together, is what bridges the gap and what makes Bon Jovi that Bon Jovi sound. And you can tell in the last 10, 15 years, or 13 years, however long it's been, since 12 years, since Richie's been gone, that's what's been missing. And it's like, they don't want to admit it. John doesn't want to admit it. And that's fine. It's his band. He is the one with the record deal. But I'm sure people tell me in the comments how I'm not a Bon Jovi fan and all that, like they did when I reviewed the legendary single when it was first released. I'd heard it twice at that point. But nonetheless, let me know what you think about the documentary. Have you watched all of it? I've watched all of it. Got to film part 4, but I want to watch it again before I cover the end of the documentary. So I'm going to watch that, come back, film part 4, and get that out. So let me know in the comments, subscribe, like the video, tell your friends, tell your enemies, and I'll see you next time.